A very good morning to all of you. My name is Peggy from Dutcham, and I hope you like the music. I already see some messages coming. Thank you, Duda, behind the scene for giving us this little shot just a few hours before the weekend starts. Thank you for being with us just before the weekend begins. I know you have probably a lot of things to do, but good that you're here with a lot of people, by the way, in the meeting room. So happy to welcome you, not only the people here in Brazil, but I also see a lot of people joining us from the Netherlands. So really nice to see that. Now, today we have a very special guest, and I think he's not even fully unpacked yet. I think he's still a little bit in the moving boxes. So I'm very happy that he was available for us to spend just a half an hour during this lunch talk with us and introduce himself here at Dutcham. I would like to welcome our new Dutch ambassador in Brazil, His Excellency, Mr. André Driessen. Welcome, André.
Thank you very much. Very glad to be here, and thank you for this opportunity to make myself known to all of you, whom I will be working with the next couple of years. So.
Exactly. And I think you're still a little bit in the moving boxes, right? Because you nearly arrived like 2-3 months ago, right?
6 weeks to be precise. And as you all know, getting a container these days is very difficult. My stuff actually went on the ship yesterday. So it's on the way to Santos, and it should be arriving beginning of October.
Okay, but we're happy because you found yourself a screen, you found yourself a seat. Absolutely. And we're happy to have you here on our sofa at Dutcham for the lunch talk. Now, André, can I, by the way, be very Dutch and address you by the first name? Can I call you?
Absolutely, no problem whatsoever.
Well, I put especially my orange jacket on for you.
I'm very glad. I see that. Yes, absolutely. I thought about an orange tie this morning. I said, well, no, I'll stick to the backdrop. That's Dutch enough. So.
Yeah, exactly. Now, let me start with the first question, and probably maybe the most interesting question of all the questions I have prepared for you. Who is André? Who is the person besides being our ambassador here in Brazil?
It's a big question. Where shall I start? Just maybe some facts. My birthplace is Eindhoven in the Netherlands, the south of the Netherlands, as you know. 60 years ago, to be precise. I was born into Eindhoven is a Philips town, Philips Electronics, of course. So I was born into a Philips family, which has also determined quite a bit of who and what I am, because my father worked for Philips and we lived and traveled abroad quite a bit. So international moving around has been a part of my life ever since I was born. If I look back, I think I've never lived in many places more than 4 or 5 years in a row. So I've moved around a lot over the years. I hope people will get to know me as a down-to-earth person. I'm Dutch, and I hope to be André for most of the people, even though I realize that being an ambassador always involves a lot of protocol and a lot of things going around. But please try to approach me as a normal person. I'm very social, family-oriented. I'm single, but I have very close ties with my brother and sister and their kids, and my father, who lives in Amsterdam. And I'm very happy that we have a very strong family bond together. So that is really the basis for everything. For the rest, I'm fond of sports. I'm a competitive squash player. I hope to be able to find my club here in Brasilia and also play some tournaments and competitions here, play some golf. I scuba dive, and I think Brazil has a few beautiful destinations to go scuba dive that I haven't visited yet. So, and of course, I like to travel a lot. Being an international oriented person, you like to travel. And especially my scuba diving has brought me to many, many beautiful places around the world. So, that's a little bit about me. Yeah.
And lots of amazing places here in Brazil that are waiting for you, and probably now already in your mailbox a lot of invitations of a lot of sport clubs to invite you. Now, if I'm not wrong, André, you also spent already 4 years during your childhood here in São Paulo, right? How does it feel to be back in Brazil after so many years?
Yeah, a lot of people ask me that question, but it was very long time ago. I was here from my 4th to my 8th year when my father worked in Sao Paulo at the big glass factories at that time that Philips had in Sao Paulo. And for me, it's more like an emotion than an actual memory because I was very young. So you always have in my mind, is my memory based on a picture that I've seen, or is it actually in my mind? But it's more like my sister was born in Sao Paulo, so we do have a bond with the country. We had happy times here. I didn't get to travel that much at that time, but what I remember from Brazil, we lived in a beautiful house. I went to Brazilian school. We spent some beautiful some beautiful years here, and maybe the origins of my fondness of the Latin American continent, Latin American culture is maybe based on those years. So I'm very, very happy that I was able to come back to this continent, and that Brazil was really the destination that they sent me to.
Yeah, because indeed, previously you've been holding quite a lot of successful other diplomatical missions overseas. You've been working in Colombia, in Spain, also in China even, and then you've been holding quite a few solid positions as well on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. How big is this job challenge then for you now being here in Brazil?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge because as an ambassador, of course, you're responsible for leading the whole team and leading the whole mission of the Netherlands in Brazil. So that to me is a very interesting opportunity, an interesting objective. What do we want to do here? How are we going to do it? We've got a wonderful team to work with, quite a lot of people in many places. We are present in 5 places in Brazil with about 70 people. So we have a big team to work with. That for me is a challenge in itself. You have as an ambassador, you have a very strong external task. You're representing the Netherlands, you're representing the Dutch interests, you're working for the Dutch citizens, both corporate and private. But I also have an internal job in leading the team and making it into one team and making sure that all these missions, the 2 consulates in Sao Paulo and Rio and the 2 business support offices in Belo Horizonte and Porto Alegre work together as a team, and that the 70 people actually sort of go into one direction collectively so that we get the biggest bang for our buck.
Well, it is absolutely, I think, a big challenge because Brazil, it's what they very often say, it's not a country, but it's more a continent.
Yeah.
And very often they also say Brazil is not for beginners. Well, you're definitely not a beginner. That's for sure, André. But what your background, because you have been very close to business, you have been very close to the corporate environment, solid background over there. How do you look at Brazil when we look from a business perspective? Do you see really some market here with a future with some possibilities?
Oh, there's always possibilities, and Brazil, I think, not to go into the cliche that Brazil is a promise and it always will be that, but I think there is definitely a lot of potential in Brazil. Brazil has its ups and downs, and I think throughout the years, Dutch companies have always shown that they're active, that they want to be present in Brazil, and that it's a big economy. There's lots of consumers, but Brazil also has a huge industrial basis to work with, and I think they say every country has its complexities. They may say that Brazil is not for beginners, but Nigeria is not for beginners either, and Russia and China and Vietnam. Every market is difficult, but as long as an entrepreneur wants to invest in getting to know the country, has some respect for the culture and the people that he finds in that country, then it's possible to do business anywhere. And for some countries, it means you have to be a little bit more patient than others. Maybe in some Western European countries, you can send a couple of faxes and organize a meeting and you have a deal. And in other countries like in Asia or in Latin America or in Africa, basically most of the world, to put it that way, you have to invest in relationships. You have to take a bit of time. You have to be patient, and you have to make sure that you really know the ins and outs of the country that you're going to be doing business with, to avoid stepping into all kinds of beginners' mistakes.
Exactly. It takes probably a little bit more time here, but it's worth as well, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and we have a lot to offer. especially the countries in the economic state of development like Brazil. It's a higher middle income country with lots of challenges when it comes to bigger cities. It's agriculture. Brazil has to go into an energy transition. They have to build smarter cities. They have to deal with water, like at the moment, the water shortage. And the Dutch, in many ways, have a lot of solutions for that. We are an innovative economy. We've got new innovative technology in many of these fields. So we can really relate with many of the sectors in Brazil to offer what we as the Dutch have on sale in our showcase.
Indeed, I think that the Dutch are known for very specific areas of industry and specific technology and innovation. Do you see some specific, because also a few people are joining us from the Netherlands who might still think about coming over and investing here in Brazil. What do you think, where do you see the biggest opportunities for Dutch companies? If you take in consideration the strength that Dutch companies have, what kind of opportunities do you see here for them?
Apart from just Brazil being a big economy, you have lots of consumers, so that means that you have a fairly big market with some good purchasing power. But as a network, a couple of years ago, we chose 4 areas where we want to focus our attention on. That is agriculture, energy transition, moving into more sustainable energy sources, life science and health sector, which of course has gotten much more importance now with the current COVID crisis, and high tech technology and materials and sort of innovative cooperation between institutes and companies. And those 4 areas, I think, are still extremely valuable when we look at the opportunities in Brazil. Now looking at Brazil at the moment, and especially the challenges where it concerns sustainability, I think in the next couple of years we'll be moving a little bit further in that direction to see how, as Dutch companies, as the country, the Netherlands, we are able to join Brazil on its path to more sustainable production methods, energy transition, while finding livable and sustainable and smart cities and all those types of things. So, no, there's lots of opportunities, and I think you will find a very ready audience, ready to listen to us, and very appreciative of the solutions that we have on offer.
We're talking indeed about sustainability, but I think also about diversity and inclusion. I think in general, what we can say about the Dutch, that they have this kind of things really in their DNA. I mean, we know the Dutch for leading companies in a very responsible, social responsible and an environmental responsible way. What do you think that the Brazilians can learn from the Dutch and vice versa? Do you already see some things that we can share on that point?
Vice versa, maybe a little bit difficult in the sense that I'm very new here and I haven't really focused on that part yet. But what we try always to transmit, if we work with other companies or organizations in other countries, is we have our way of working, and we also, as a government, expect our companies and our organizations to work in a certain way. To engage in responsible business conduct. If they work in a country, work according to the legal mindset, treat their people well, work in a sustainable way, find ways to also in challenging environments. You can also see that the Dutch always take one step ahead and show just a little bit more than what is maybe useful or what is maybe usual in the context in which they work, and that is what we can offer. We can show, we can sort of lead by example. We can show that things are actually working, so that other parties and local companies and organizations may adopt it. What we can learn from the Brazilians, usually it's in cultures like Brazil, it's also that not everything has to be set in stone and arranged a couple of months before. That a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more improvisation. Those are usually talents that are very much associated with the people of Latin America and probably also from Brazil. So that I think is if you join the two. And if we take a little bit of the lightness and the improvisation that is characteristic for Brazil, and look at how we do things and organize things on our side, you have a good combination. You have a good match.
Well, I think so as well, and go a little bit more with the flow. I think this is the Brazilian way as well. But
it's very interesting. It's very interesting that we very often, coming from our country, we appreciate very much the improvisation and the flexibility and sort of the happy-go-lucky type of orientation that people may have here. But on the other hand, we should not forget that if you look and talk to Brazilians or to Asians or to Chinese, they admire very much the way we organize our country. And some people say, oh, we should have a little bit more of that organization. So we actually envy each other for each other's qualities. So that's a good thing.
The grass is always greener at the neighbor, they
absolutely,
say. But I think combining two, I think that this is a spirit. By the way, talking about the Dutch, I mean, I can say because I'm Belgian, right, André? I mean, the Dutch are very direct, very straightforward, very open-minded as well, very entrepreneurial. Do you believe that there is what we call sort of an orange spirit, a Dutch spirit? How would you describe that? Asking to a Dutch now.
Yeah, I think there is. As I said, there is a Dutch way of doing things. If you look at, I haven't put up this backdrop forever. That's sort of for nothing. That's the new Netherlands branding, solving global challenges together, and some underlying key words are openness, inventiveness, and inclusion. And especially the inventiveness is an interesting one, because I was part of this process, and we on purpose did not choose the word innovative, because that's sort of like everybody uses innovative. And inventive has a little bit of that Dutch touch to it. It's a little bit naughty. It's a bit of out of the box. It's and that is what characterizes the Dutch. If you talk about what people admire in Dutch design, for instance, is that the Dutch designers always are able to find a typical edge, a little practical joke, a slightly out of the ordinary solution to a problem that they face. So that is, I think, the Dutch way of doing things, and it is appreciated because we are a little bit out of the ordinary, and it apparently appeals to people. So maybe you can call that the orange way of doing things, yeah. Let's see.
Yeah. Well, by the way, complimenting you also on the backdrop that is there, but because it's not just a picture, right? I mean, you've been driving the whole campaign on the new Netherlands branding.
Yeah.
We tend to call it Holland, but we are pushed now to call it the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Very strong slogan as well, solving global challenges together. You want to touch something on that one as well, because you've been part of this whole campaign, putting that all together.
Yeah. Well, it does show a little bit of that joint responsibility we feel. One, of course, we want to be there for our Dutch interests, and the companies want to do business and they want to earn money. But the Dutch also have a very strong second sort of line of business. That is that we do feel responsible for the world around us. We do feel that the world has huge challenges that we cannot solve alone. We have to work together. And it's interesting, if you talk to Dutch companies or talk to Dutch organizations, it's interesting how often they will use the word cooperate, together, or partnership when it comes to working with other countries and other organizations. And that makes us an interesting partner, because we do want to partner up as equal partners. We do see the other one not as a client or as someone that we want to make money of. We want to see them as a partner that we want to embark on a joint project, so that we both can benefit, and that's actually the 1 and 1 is 3 type of thinking. Mm-hmm. And that is very strong also in this whole campaign, solving global challenges together. We believe we have a lot of solutions on offer, and the only way that we can make the world better is that we partner with other people and make our knowledge available.
Exactly. And this is, by the way, also one of the messages that we will soon pick up from out of Dutcham, because we have a lot of Dutch companies here, big companies, but also small and medium-sized companies here in Brazil that do some awesome job, right? When it comes down on sustainability and diversity and inclusion. Now, we talked a lot about business and companies, but I think there are more synergies between the two countries, right? I think the history between the Netherlands and Brazil is going very long back in time. Mm-hmm. What other kind of connections do you see besides of purely business-wise?
Mm-hmm. Now, of course, you already mentioned that we have a long history together, even though the true Dutch period in Brazil was 25 years long and long ago. It still is very well known in Brazil, and it's considered a landmark period of Brazilian history. So that's something we can look back on. And for the rest, I think this whole continent, because it comes from this is a continent in the world which is very much based on our sort of Western cultural, social values. It came. A lot of it came from Europe, so we relate very much to Latin America, and I want to also to focus it on Brazil. So the allies in the international arena are on this part of the world. The countries here think alike. People think alike when it comes to values. So we look at the political perspective also to cooperate with Brazil. We have, of course, strong cultural links. We see a lot of students from Brazil go to the Netherlands to study. So that creates a lot of people-to-people links, and Dutch companies, because the Brazilian economy in the 50s, let's say, or even before that, was a very closed-off economy. A lot of companies established themselves in Brazil for the Brazilian market, for production. So they have been here traditionally for a very long time, and have really sort of identified themselves with the Brazilian market. So that means we have a presence. We of course have quite a strong immigrant presence also. We still have large Dutch communities in the south of Brazil, which still carry the Dutch culture and the Dutch heritage. So on many fields.
It's not only Alhambra. It's not only Alhambra, but
no. There are many more. There are many more, and that is the concentrated colony. There's also a lot of Dutch descendants living in all kinds of places in Brazil. So I feel that on many areas that we can work together. We find each other. We appreciate each other, and let's hope that we've all gone through a very difficult period the last year and a half. That very soon the borders will open again, and they will be able to visit each other again and sort of embrace each other again and do the things that we all like to do.
This is what all of us are desperately waiting for. Hey, but that brings me also to another question, because very often people have the impression that an embassy and a consulate is there to give your visa, to give your passport, and this is basically it. But obviously you're doing much more than just that. You mentioned you have almost 70 people here from the diplomatic corps and 5 different locations. What do you see as the main challenge, as the main objective, the role, let's say, of the diplomatical network here for the Dutch in Brazil?
What people, of course, see in the direct private service is, of course, the consular function, passports, assistance, when people get into trouble, documents. But that's only one of the things that we do. Big other functions of the network, and some of them are located more in the embassy, and others are more in the consulates. Of course, trade and economic work is one. Political work is another one. We maintain the political relationship with the Brazilian authorities. Culture and public diplomacy is also a very important one. Culture is what we can bring here. We've got wonderful cultural manifestations. We hope also to be able to bring Brazilian culture back to the Netherlands. Public diplomacy, what do we want to present when it comes to the message that the Netherlands has to Brazil and to the world. And we do some projects also. We do projects in the field of human rights. We have projects in the field of cultural heritage, where we support organizations in sometimes restoring something or reconstructing through archive and study work parts of the Dutch heritage. So we work in many different fields. The political part is mostly concentrated in the embassy in Brasilia, because this is where the federal government is. But because of the importance, of course, of Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, it's not without reason that we have a consulate general there with lots of people. And it's good to know that we don't only have people from Ministry of Foreign Affairs in a consulate. We also have an agricultural attaché here who comes from the Ministry of Agriculture. We have someone here from the Ministry of Technology and Economic Affairs. We have someone here from Customs. We will have a colleague that will be coming from the Ministry of Education. So we have lots of influences from other ministries also within our embassy to have specialized work that can be done also from our missions.
Yeah, lots of challenges, a lot of things to do. And I think you also closely work together with other embassies from other European countries. And with
absolutely,
European,
especially the work within the European context, European Union context is, of course, very important. There are certain things that we can only do together. And of course, as 27 nations, we are very, very strong, a very strong bloc and a very strong partner of Brazil also.
Yeah, exactly. Now, as you already mentioned, we're still in this Corona times, right? It's 1 year and a half, almost 2 years. We don't get out of this situation. How difficult is it to manage all of these people from distance, André? I think I even assume that you even didn't physically met these people yet so far, right?
Yeah. I find it a big challenge to use a cliche word. In my other job in the Netherlands, I had a big department, but at least when COVID started, I had worked with these people for 2 or 3 years, and I knew them before we went digital. Now I'm in a new office, and I've met most of the people from the embassy in Brasilia. But from the consulates, definitely not. And it's very strange to start a new job and relate to people only through the screen. It leaves to be desired, to put it mildly. And it is difficult. You have to spend a lot of time talking to people, calling people, making sure you contact. But I really look forward to the time that I can actually see the teams in person. And I will make a point that as soon as it's a little bit okay, I will be going to Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro to meet the teams there. Definitely.
This was also one of the things I wanted to ask. When are we going to see each other physically? When are you going to visit us here in Sao Paulo and also soon in Rio?
It will be soon. I think in Brazil, people are traveling quite a bit. So I think São Paulo will be on the agenda for September, definitely. Because the team there is complete now, and also the new people arriving in the summer have arrived or will be arriving very shortly. So as soon as the team is complete, I will try to make it to São Paulo, and Rio the same. As soon as the team there is complete, I'll be going there also.
Well, you already met a few of our CEOs on a virtual way, but indeed, I think that we are hoping that you will come very soon to visit us in São Paulo. We will keep the Heineken fresh, and let's have a drink together. Now, just maybe because looking at the time when you talk and when it's fun, then time goes very quickly. So
absolutely.
I have to keep a little bit of an eye on the time. But maybe just a question also when we talk about Corona. How do you personally look at the future post-Corona? I mean, everybody's talking about the new reality, the new normal, and then probably the 1 billion question, when will there be, back to normal? How do you see for yourself to this future? I'm not a very revolutionary person who says that everything's going to change after Corona. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we've learned a lot in the last year. On the one hand, we've learned how important health and healthcare and taking good care of ourselves is. I think we've also realized that this is a global pandemic and we have responsibilities for ourselves, but also for many people around us. And we will only be safe when everybody is safe. Let's put it that way. So we still have a huge responsibility for many parts of the world where we haven't even started to tackle the problem yet. But after that, I think a lot of people will also want to get back to normal, to what was normal before, not only the new normal. I don't really think the whole world's going to be turning upside down. I think people are going to go back to the lives which they thought was comfortable. And yes, we'll be flying a little bit less, but maybe less business-wise, but people will still go on holiday and they will still grab a plane to go somewhere. So I think that will return, and I hope it will return because it's the life that we liked. Exactly. And why should we not feel comfortable with going back to what we liked before? Exactly. So, we might even appreciate it even more, right, André? After we have been taken away these things that was so obvious. I mean,
if you see how glad people are to go back to concerts and to go back to the bar, to go and to be able to have a meal at a restaurant. It's just, and even children who used to be very, I don't want to go to school and I feel bad today. How many children have not really said to their parents, I actually want to go back to school. I want to see my friends again. So.
Exactly. But even our employees, some of them, they complained, I prefer working from out of home. I'm not sure that we still have this trend after Corona. I mean, probably people would be happy to go to work.
Happy to go back to the office. Absolutely. Yeah.
Hey, very last question for you, André, maybe to our audience. Is there still something that you want to share with them, a message that we want to give? Because we have a lot of people here listening to you. Is there some final thing that you want to share with them?
Well, on a personal note, just stay safe, stay healthy, get vaccinated maybe, because that's the way out. But after that, really, I hope to be working with everybody in Brazil, whether it's business-wise or culture or in any other sense. I really look forward to the years that I'll be spending in Brazil, and I hope that we can do very beautiful things together. Let's that be the final thought, that we actually can do good things for the Dutch-Brazil relationships, and we get some wonderful results.
Super. But I couldn't end better than that, Andrea. I think we all look forward to work with you as well. Once again, welcome in Brazil. We are very happy that you.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
And thank you also for spending some time during this lunch talk with us and for giving you a little bit more insights about who is André. It was our pleasure. Thank you very much for making this time for us.
It was my great pleasure. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
And thank you also to the audience for listening to us. I hope you enjoyed this talk. And of course, stay with Dutcham because we have more events coming up. As a matter of fact, in 2 weeks, you're kindly invited for a new CEO lunch talk. At that time, it will be with Mauricio Chamelaro from the CEO president from Heineken. So that is promising to be a very interesting talk as well. So I hope to see you in 2 weeks. For the time being, have a good Friday, have a good weekend, stay safe, and see you soon at Dutcham.